Hey everyone, welcome back to Crossroads, the intersection of faith and life. We're pumped. We had a great episode last time with Berto, so shout out to Berto. If you haven't checked it out, go back wherever you're watching or listening and check that conversation out. It truly is powerful.
Some great stories, man.
He's a good storyteller, man.
Yeah,
I can listen to
like I said, I don't know if OG, I don't know if I said it in the podcast, but I don't know if OG is a better storyteller or Berto. Berto's
I don't know, man. I don't know. You put us both in a room, man, with some stories, man. We'll sit there for a minute and tell some stuff.
A couple minutes,
That might have to be a in between seasons episode.
Stories are Berto.
Story time.
It'll be like a special episode.
We'll sit them up there with all the kids on, right there. Or be like, hey kids, So yeah, it's been crazy. Episode 6, I think, or we just did 6. Right, episode 6. So crazy again for those that are watching or listening. Thanks for joining with us, and I guess we'll just do a quick check-in, right? It could be wherever you want to take it, right? It could be about football, how your team's doing, any experience you have there, wherever you want to start.
Man, I'm doing good. Well, I'll start with myself, man. I'm doing good, man. Like my voice is a little bit tired. It's a little shot. We were at the Jags game yesterday.
And, I thought you were practicing for your part for One Accord.
One Accord. Listen, man. One Accord though. For those of you guys who don't know, One Accord is our vocal group, we had a highly productive practice this past Saturday.
So I heard.
And you weren't there. And we actually, it would be nice to have you at one of these practices.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? I was listening this morning, and we were driving with Pastor Marcus. Like, I got to get my game up because they're practicing 3 hours in the weekend. I'm here.
We're going through intentives. We have one of our close friends, Sandy, who's been helping us. She's actually my piano teacher, and she came, and it turned into like a 1 hour practice to like 2.5 hours, but it was highly productive, man. But that's not why my voice is tired, man. We were tired because I was yelling at the game, man. I go to the game with Elton, our producer, to the games, right? And some people, they'll go to the football game and they're just yelling full throat all game as if they don't have a job that involves dialogue the next day. Like they don't have to talk.
They work in
for
IT.
me, I talk for a living, so I gotta reserve my cheers.
You gotta find.
I'm the kind of fan that actually ends up clapping a lot more than yelling. Like I'll clap, and whatever.
You're making noise. You're supporting.
I'm making noise, but I'm not the whole game because
you're an engaged participant.
What you're hearing right now is just like partial cheering. But the Jags pulled off a nice win, and we had a good time, and
they're looking good,
tailgating and stuff. So they are looking good. But no, it was a good Monday. Not bad for a Monday. And like I was talking to Cheryl before the episode started, that once you get through Monday, it's the rest of the week kind of and it goes by fast. I think the rest of the week kind of goes by kind of fast. Once you get through Monday.
Yeah, that's true.
No, man, it's all good, man. I'm feeling good. Life is good. Can't complain, man. Life is good.
Nice.
Sure. What about you?
Yeah, this was a good weekend. And then Monday came. Today came.
Monday.
Yeah. Today was rough. So, when you're in management or you're responsible for a group of people, there are a lot of logistical challenges that come with that. Yeah. And so today, with my job, just had a lot of people that weren't able to come to work for a lot of different reasons. And so my responsibility then becomes trying to find coverage or try and rearrange things so that things, work can continue with whoever is left over. And so in one little department, out of 10 people, 6 people were out.
What?
Yeah. And so I was down to 4.
You need to talk to your staff about getting the vitamins going, bro.
Yeah.
Like multivitamins, some vitamin C. Like how is 6 people sick, bro?
Well, that's the thing. It's not all sickness.
Oh, it wasn't all sick.
It's not all sickness. It's not all sickness.
Okay. I was about to say, man, you guys.
They were all at the Jags game. They said,
see, they all lost their voices.
I can't come today. I don't know if it'd be good for me to. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I
got scared for a minute.
No.
Look, if all your staff's sick like that,
if all of them were sick, I'm calling out tomorrow.
Because you're about to be sick.
Because I'm about to be sick.
Man.
So, but yeah, it was
something's down coming.
But it was a challenging day, just trying to move things around. You feel like you're playing chess. Just move this piece here, move that piece there, just to get through the day. But we made it. We got to the end of the day. It wasn't too bad, all things considered. So
that's
good. I'm hanging in. That's doing all right.
That's good. Man, I think for me, one of the things from this, last couple of days is the weather. It's been nice.
It's been great.
I like it though.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I love it. This is my favorite time. I think in Florida. Yeah, because it's like you can go out for a walk. You can be outside just standing.
Do some yard
where in the
work,
summer you can, if you stand outside for 2 seconds, you're sweating.
Yeah.
So here, you feel the warmth. So you're not really cool. You're cold. You're cool. You're fresh. Yeah. So that's been just awesome. And the dogs have been loving that at home. So yeah, I'm loving that. And then I love Christmas. I love that season. And so it just reminds me. So I might put my Christmas tree up and
Already?
Christmas. Who knows, man? If I'm in the spirit.
October. Wow. Okay.
Come on, man.
No, I thought there was a rule against that. I thought it was like after Thanksgiving or maybe the week of Thanksgiving. I don't know. You could do October Christmas tree.
No, yeah, you can.
Okay.
There is like, I mean, I'm not swayed by the rule societies.
No, well, you're still a man. Like you do your.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. Exactly. So
All right. Well. All right. Let me know how that goes. Talk to Chantal.
Yeah, Chantal's like, you're not putting the tree up.
That tree back.
Why are the Christmas lights outside already?
Clark W. Griswold.
Yeah, I know. It's like, no. So no, but yeah, that the weather's been great, and I think that just helps my mood a lot. I just feel happier. I'm like, man, I just want to go out.
Yeah, this is the best time of the year to be in Florida for sure.
It's really nice when you walk outside, and like for those that wear glasses, you're inside, the AC is going, and as soon as you open the door, your glasses just fog up.
Yeah.
It's nice to not have that happen when you walk outside. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, went to work, went to the car. It was like 65 degrees. Air was crisp. It was like that clean air.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is great.
You breathe it in. You're like,
right.
This is good.
You could drive with the windows down.
Yes.
And not feel like there's all this humidity.
There's
and
like a whole layer of like damp.
Yeah.
You're like,
you're like, ugh. Yeah. It's nice. If I could have this year round, it'd be great.
Correct.
And it lasts a while in this area because where I used to live was in Southwest Florida. And there you have like a month like this. That's it. Like here, it's like it's
October.
We got from now until probably March. Before it gets up into the 80s and 90s.
The summer's been super hot, so hopefully this will be a cooler time there.
Yeah.
But that's been great. That's been great. But that's good. I'm glad you guys are good. In kind of thinking about tonight, there's been a lot of stuff going on around the world, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be things like in football, in sports world. But it just in the whole world, right? There's been a big attention on kind of Israel and Palestine and all that stuff. And so obviously it's a big, this disclaimer, we're not, political analyst or
not even a
geographical, and there's like
not a pundit.
Exactly. So we really don't even know, there's just such a history there.
There's so many layers.
There's so many layers to that too. But I'm just curious, before we even get into like, hey, kind of what's going on, what has been like your gut feeling throughout the, because this has been for those that maybe are under a rock and haven't seen the news, a week ago Saturday there was attacks from Hamas coming from Gaza to Israel. That would if you just look at the map there and you can see some of the surrounding places and military bases that they had, and the kibbutz or places where people were living, and they killed a lot of people, took hostages, innocent people, right? Exactly, innocent people. So they went back, and so now that's triggered a response from Israel that's gone in and just leveled entire blocks and homes and in attacks and trying to attack and I guess demolish Hamas as well, but really killing a lot of innocent people as well. So what's been your gut feeling through that? I don't know if you've kept up with it a lot, if you've watched a lot, but
I followed it kind of loosely. I mean, I've been following it, but I don't really watch it. I'm not really a big consumer of news, really.
Yeah.
But I've been following it kind of loosely. And I mean, when it first went down, you were thinking kind of politically, like you have to respond, right? If you're Israel, you have to respond. And then I started seeing some of the pictures, and I'm like, this is more than a response, bro. Yeah. Like they went in there kind of like almost with a mission, like we're gonna end this now. This ends now.
Israel into Gaza.
They went in there. I mean, when you look at the pictures, bro, like the response was aggressive. And, and the thing about it is, it's one of those things where you almost have to, right? If this has been going on for so long, that this feels like more than just a tit for tat response. It kind of feels more like we're responding and we're gonna try to end this right now.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's sad to see the women, the children, the innocent people that have been killed. I mean, wars happen and people die in war, but when you see like civilians and stuff like that in like hospitals and then you think about the fact that they've cut off, Israel's kind of cut off any aid to the area. Yeah. So there's no power, water, there's hospitals, people that need stuff, there's kids and they don't have it, So you're thinking about it from another layer where it's just kind of like, man, like,
what is going
the casualties of war are very high. You know what I mean? And people are like, we're not leaving the hospital. You have hospitals that are like, we're not leaving.
Right.
Because we have patients here. And the humanity of it all, and you just kind of think about the heart of God in a moment like this where he's like, like, it's like, man, just come soon. You got to end this, man. Yeah. But I've been following it loosely, and I did do some research as far as the history. Yeah. Because I think for a lot of people, you think back, okay, we're going back to like Isaac, Ishmael, and stuff like that. But up until everything was okay up until about 100 years ago. Right. Is when it really kind of got crazy. I've been following it loosely, man. It's sad, man. It's sad, and I don't know. It almost is. When is this going to end? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Same for me. I haven't really dug too much into it, gotten too deep into it, but like you said, just seeing the fact that it's a lot of innocent people that are suffering as a result, that always kind of does something to me. Like, I understand that wars happen, and people sign up to go to war. Like, you join the military and you say, I'm going to go fight for my country. That's different than I'm just trying to go to the grocery store and pick up some milk and eggs. Yep. And now someone drops a bomb, the store's exploded, and I've lost three of my family members. Like that doesn't sit well with me on either side. So I've just been kind of paying a little bit of attention from afar, and it kind of riles up. I don't even know what the right word is, but there's just like this feeling of like injustice. Like these people, I get that you don't like their country, but these people didn't do anything to you. Like these innocent people didn't do anything to you. Leave them out of it. Right. If you handle your business soldiers to soldiers. So that's kind of how I've been looking at it.
Kind of like I guess I have been following more tightly than loosely, but I got a master's this last week in Israeli-Palestine. I'm just kidding. Can you imagine conflict? No, but I think obviously my personality is a 9, right? So I'm always trying to see the two sides, and I don't think any of the killing or what's the word you would use? Whether it be the bombings that in response or what Hamas did in going over, none of that is justified. But there is an understanding that goes into kind of what you were saying, into the context of Israel and Palestine, and just like you said, you can go back all the way to Bible times and what's been very interesting. And this is a whole nother thing. I just finished the book of, what did I finish? Galatians. That's why I preached last week. Yeah. So I finished the book of Galatians, and I was like, what should I read? And this was like last, on Sunday, Monday. And I was like, let me start Joshua. Because I was like, interesting, right? Let me go back to see. And so I'm reading through Joshua, and now I'm looking at it with the context of the future of what we're seeing now. Yeah. And I'm on, this is obviously, not a lot, hopefully not, no one takes my license away, but I'm looking through that, and I'm having a hard time because I'm hearing God's words to Joshua saying, and today I've read when Jericho's walls fall. And it's like this, hey, I promised you a land that's inhabited and it's going to be yours. We're going to wipe everyone out and now you can settle it, right? And I'm reading that and I'm seeing kind of what that looks like, right? Because usually you read the story and you're like, yeah, Israel came in. Yeah, this is God's promised land. Obviously, there's a whole context there, right? How the Canaanites in that area where Israel went into, which is the land of Canaan, how they were living, the gods they were worshiping. You have child worship, very atrocious things and stuff. But, it could be that they didn't wipe everyone, that people also got afraid, like Rahab's like, hey, we heard about y'all. We're afraid. We know we're going to fall if you come fight us. So a lot of people probably just left the area. But still, you're looking at it with the context of today, right? Kind of in future sense. And I'm like, man, this is so interesting, right? So I've been wrestling with that this week. I know the theological answer because I've been trained as a pastor what to give. But feeling it as a human, I'm reading the story now and I'm like,
yeah,
this is interesting.
Everyone's
right?
fighting for the same thing, right? It's like everyone's fighting for the same space, the same territory,
right?
But then it comes into the situation too, when you do look at it, like at what point do you go from the victim to the villain?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And who has the proper claim?
That's what I mean.
Because this is such a layered thing. I was thinking this week, like it's different. I think from it's different, but similar to the black and white issue we've had in the States, right, with slavery and all that, and then civil rights and Jim Crow era and all that. Because here you have, and obviously there was elements of that, but here you have not just an ethnic idea, like we don't like Arabs, we don't like people from Palestine, we don't like Jews, anti-Semitism, whatever. But now you throw in a spiritual. Like, you're talking about people that, especially if you're, we're not saying this is a Islam versus Judaism thing, because there's a lot of Palestinians that are Christians too, right? But you throw in people groups that are kind of like theocracies, right, in a sense, right? Whereas we're democracies, they're like, hey, this is spiritual life, religion, and our everyday life.
God's given this to us, and we will fight to the death.
So then you go back to that, right? And so I can see how, as a Jew, you're like, this is our land. And then you look at the history, and it's like, the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire from the Turks, that has just reshaped everything. You go back to World War I, where there's just a lot of treaties, and they try to do it So you start seeing the big context, like this is so like convoluted and crazy.
Which is why I don't know that it'll ever resolve indefinitely. I think you'll have periods of peace like they've been having. They've had a lot of peace, but I think you'll always, and it only takes one thing.
The
one thing.
This has been, I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts, from both, the which has been like I shared with one with you guys, right? And it's just like you hear the stories of people on the ground, whether so they interview a lady that was attacked or the families was attacked by Hamas, from the Jewish perspective and what they experienced, and then you see it from people from Gaza, and you're like, dude, this is, and that's what breaks my heart, right? That the core, what you guys were saying is like it's always innocent civilians, and then you think of children, right? And it's like it's children that are being, now they don't have a family, right? And then I was hearing today someone saying that at night they're in Gaza because they're bombing so much, they are. They all sleep in the same room now because if they get bombed, they're like, at least we'll all die together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you imagine? Then I put myself in their shoes. Okay, I was like, all right, let's imagine that we have all these people coming into Palm Coast. They start knocking on our doors. They take Chantal or they start shooting up our neighborhood. Yeah, I'd be mad. I'd be pissed, right? It's hey, I'm upset. I'm frustrated. Yeah. What do we, And even my personality, that's like, I might be like, hey, what's happening? But then I put myself in other shoes. Okay, imagine now indiscriminately they come bombing and they're trying to find the bad guys, but they bomb my house and the church, and they bomb. Now we're living in an apartment complex, and I lose. My wife too, and we're going to the hospital. The hospital's bombed. So I'm thinking in both situations, you're like,
they're the bad guy.
Yeah.
They become the bad guy.
Because it's kind of like whenever we go to war now, you go like we've gone to Afghanistan. You kill the kid's son, the kid's dad. He's gonna grow up to be like, oh, I hate America because they killed my father. Regardless of what we stood for,
you can actually start creating even more people. Like one of the negative effects from something like this is you can start creating even more hatred, and where there otherwise may not have been because of the collateral damage of what just happened or what's happening on both sides.
Anti-hero story, right? It's like how did it start? Yeah.
I mean, you look at not just Israel and Palestine, but a lot of other situations, especially terrorist groups, I feel like.
And
it feels like a lot of those terrorist groups are founded on things like that. Oh, this country did something to my family member,
band together to
my area, or to this group of people, and I hate them for it, and I want to get back at them. And so we're going to band together, and we're going to do everything we can to get back at them. And then the country responds and says, oh no, we're not going to let you come and terrorize us. And they bomb them or kill somebody, and they're like, you just killed, my friend. Now I'm even more, and it just it builds on itself. Like hatred begets more hatred.
And it's a shame because like Hamas is kind of an extremist. It's an extremist group, right? So it's not. Group, So then what ends up happening too, even like on social media, you'll see it where people will say, hey, like listen, we're praying for Israel, right? Which we are, but you say you're praying for Palestine. And all of a sudden, you're like, "What's wrong with you? What are you talking about?" It's like, well, no, not really. Like, there's an extremist group that was occupying that area, but there's also some good people in Palestine. Like, you can still pray for the people in Palestine. And that's, you know what I mean? And not be like, I'm a bad guy or I'm anti-Semitic or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes we think it's like what is it called? Zero-sum game, right? That there has to be a winner and loser. Like, no, we can figure out a different way of approaching this. And I'm against what happened in Israel, and I'm against what's happening in Palestine. Because innocent lives are taken in both ways, right? So I don't have to be like, oh, well, I'm pro-Israel or pro, and so it's just like, oh man. So it's just been, to me, it's been thinking, okay, what would be the what was the Jesus way of, and because this obviously, and this is a world scale, right? Because then you can throw into, well, who knows? Are we leading?
Because as a country, you have to. That's what I was going to talk to you about too. Because as a country. Like I know as Christians, we always talk about turning the other cheek and nonviolence, but as a country, if you're attacked like this, you have to respond. Right. Like Israel, for example, or the U.S. after 9/11, turning the other cheek is not an option. Right. Like we have to respond.
Yeah.
Right. And especially when there's like hostages, and I get that hostage part. The thing that with that is just tricky because of the history that they have, right?
Yeah.
And so seeing how Gaza, they call it like an open air prison, right? And it's just, you look at the conditions that they're in, it's like. Obviously we're foreigners and we're not there, and we haven't seen the day to day. But I mean, it would be up to me whether you live in Gaza, West Bank, Israel, whatever. The daily. Now one of the persons was saying, hey, we have apps that whenever there's being missiles launched, they'll give us like, how we get a there's a tornado warning, they get like a missile warning, and like
crazy.
So that whole area you're living, and I'm thinking about the trauma that these people are going to live through in every side, right? And then on top of that, just how it's a perpetual teaching of the other person, they're the enemy, right? And so it's like, will we ever, like you're saying, right? So I get it, that's why I'm a pastor, not a national leader, because I don't know how, what do you do? How do you get your people to, hey guys, we're going to turn the other cheek as a country, and we're going to try to repair. Maybe we're going to try to repair in a different way, because we know that violence begets violence, and if we want to have a world of peace, we have to go different ways. But then you're dealing with people that don't want peace, right? So it's like,
and it's so crazy how all this is happening, like in the Holy Lands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it is literally happening, like where Christ walked.
Where
like
all that started, right?
It's like that's a focal point of like the entire planet. Like so much is being contested there and was between the devil and God. With his son Jesus and with God himself, right? And then it's even being contested. Like that land is just. It's like always being fought for at a spiritual level, you know what I mean, with God and Satan, and then now at a physical level, it's just that land is just so hot. It's been hot forever. It's just hot
forever,
and it's crazy because there, obviously there's tours and people that go there all the time, and the amount of people that had gone over there from different countries to tour that area, and then all of a sudden here come these attacks, and now they're stranded and they're stuck in.
David and Ty Gibson.
I was listening. A lady she went to visit her in-laws in Gaza. She's from Tallahassee. She's a teacher from Tallahassee. She was been here 30 years, and she went over there. They had her on the phone, and she's like, "Yeah, they were in North area where now they're like, hey, you got 24 hours. 1 million people got to go south. But it's like there's no whatever. That's the whole, but." She's like, yeah, now I'm trapped. I don't even know. We're trying to go to Egypt because she's a foreigner. I mean, she's I guess
she's a U.S. citizen,
but she's a U.S. citizen, right? Yeah. So they got to the border, but she can't get. So she's just like traumatized because she's there and she's she would see like you're on the phone, you can hear the missiles being dropped.
I can't
and
even
stuff.
imagine that, bro.
And she's like, you can smell this like sulfur, I guess, and then you see like the red light, and you don't know, that when something explodes, and she's just on the phone, and you hear in the back, and you're like,
wild.
Is everything okay? It's like, yeah, we got to open our windows because they're gonna shadow. It's time to, so it's like,
wow. It's wild.
It's just a crazy, and so you're thinking about the trauma, right? Like again, the cycle, right? You keep bombing, now you're gonna start. I know you're defending your country and your honor. You're trying to get the hostages back, but the other inverse effect is that hey, now you got a lot of people that just down come is I want Israel to go down because look what they did to our whole. So it's just like, to me, it just shows like the violence is not the answer, even though in this broken world many times it seems like it's the only reasonable answer, right? That you need to. If I can inflict you with more pain, then I can prevent
stop you from hurting us, right?
So
it's easy. I think it's easier in this situation in particular to take the side of the non-initiators, right?
Right.
Where Israel didn't start this. They were just they were attacked.
Yeah.
But
I don't take their side. Well, I don't take any side.
No, I don't. Well, I don't know
what you're saying.
But you know what I mean? Like it's easier not to be like, well,
here,
hey,
they
didn't start this current conflict, right? People were minding their own business and they were attacked in this particular instance, but. There's no winners, man. There's no winners in something like this.
And the sucky part, again, going back to this, just like what you guys were saying, usually always the ones that lose are like the innocent civilians.
Yeah, exactly.
The kids, the women, the innocent people that have nothing to do. The grandparents,
they just happen to be living there.
They just happen to live there, and they're like, well, that's it. Like, what's going on? So it's just like that's what breaks my heart when I see all this. I'm like, man, you see these dads holding their babies, running to the hospital.
I can't even imagine that.
You see these people, in the kibbutz over there in Israel, going around, and they, my whole family's done and my family's gone, so it's just like, man, what a broken. So I think it's a reminder for me, like, man, we live in such a broken world. Going to your point, if you're God and you have the power to stop this right now, right? How do you navigate that? Knowing, obviously our theology as an Adventist church, we have certain things that we believe will happen before Jesus comes back, but it's like, and he's been seeing this for thousands of years.
I'm glad I'm not God.
It's just right like, now. How do you know how much longer to bear with, and then it leads you to think, okay, how were the days of Noah? If this is how we're at, if God got to the point where he's like, nah, we starting again.
Well, yeah, and the Bible says like the thoughts, everyone's thoughts were for evil always.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like all your thoughts are evil always.
Because I think everyone can say, at some point, maybe you're driving or something like that, and someone cuts you off, and you have that thought, man, I hope your car.
But it's not. You're not living in that perpetual thought.
Right. But like, I'm trying to imagine, like, you're just walking down the street, and you see like someone's walking to the door. You don't know them. They've done nothing to you, and instead of holding the door open for them, you're like, I'm gonna punch that person.
Yeah.
Where your thoughts are perpetually towards harm.
Like, when do you get to? Like, how do you get to that point? where like every thought you think is
evil.
I gotta hurt somebody. I gotta do something bad. Like,
and everyone's like, everyone's it's
like
not just
that.
you. It's everyone.
Everyone.
It's crazy, yeah. And I think that's only one guy in his family that's
like, nah, we're good.
You know, he's probably a little better than that, right?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you know, looking at that world, it's just kind of crazy. I'm curious now, right? We're you know, just looking at that, because the first thing that came to mind was going to your point, right? You know, if you're getting attacked, people are taking hostage, you're kind of surprised. You know, that's a whole nother dialogue there. How did they not, you know, because Israel has such a sophisticated, you know, especially living in where they live in that quadrant where they're not really, you know, whatever. How, you know, I was thinking immediately like the level of revenge that we usually do, right? And so, do you guys feel that way sometimes? I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you feel like, you know, someone wronged you and then you're like, oh man, you want to take it to the next level.
I think that the tendency of humanity in our fallen state is to always go more aggressive. Like if somebody punches you, like you're gonna make sure that they think twice before doing it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that's a good point.
The retaliation is almost always more aggressive than the initial.
Right.
If you look at it, you know.
I feel like if you look at just a lot of like violent crime, I feel like a lot of violent crime is based off of that. Mm-hmm. Maybe I shouldn't say a lot because I don't have numbers to back that up, but like from my perspective, sometimes it feels like you see, you know, this person got into an altercation with that person, they punched them or something like you said, or they insulted them, and the person is like, oh, I need to get my get back. And so they run out to their car and pull out a gun. Yeah, they've escalated things. There's no like, I'm coming back at you in the same level. No,
it's always more.
I'm bringing my homies and we're gonna beat on you, and like, I'm bringing my whole town. Right, and it's just like
it just escalates. A good example. One of the games yesterday, the 49ers-Browns game. Before the game, like there's just this, you know, they're warming up, players on the field, and there's like this little scuffle. And one of the 49ers players goes over and shoves one of the Browns players. And that leads to like 4 Browns players coming back to shove the one 49er player. But then some of the other Niners players see it. So now like 8 of them come over to shove the 4. And now you've got like 12. And before you know it, it's both teams just going at it. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh man, it's one-on-one, let them figure it out. It's like, no, I got to jump in there and do something. And it just escalates and escalates and escalates and escalates. And I think that's what happens a lot of the time. You feel that you've been wronged and you're like, this person did something to me. I need to, like you said, I need to take it to another level so that they understand, don't mess with me again. Don't do that to me again. Yeah.
Now I have a question for both you guys. And again, the disclaimer that I will say is I'm not a political strategist. I don't have any. I mean, I'm just a dude in Palm Coast, right?
Just a dude.
But do you think a situation could arise? Was that a song? Huh? Do you think a situation could arise? Because I know now Israel's planning ground troops as well.
Which is,
do you think it could come to the point where people are like, the rest of the world's like, whoa, okay, we got you've made your point. Now you're going too far.
I think
and they become the villain.
I think that
the rest of the world's like, hey, listen,
point,
you need to chill right now.
I think there's at that.
You've made your point.
What I've seen is the UN's already come out and said the moment you cut out water, electricity, and food, you've gone too far.
Survival.
You're bombing civilians. You're breaking some. You know, even though it was terrorists and it was the Hamas that, whatever, they help run Gaza, right? I mean, there's like you said, there's a whole political history there that's crazy, but. You know, you've already broken some rules of how we do war here, which is interesting, right? If we were back maybe in the Romans' time, right, the Greeks' fights, it was easy to know who the bad person is, right? Because you're in the field, away from the towns, you're just...
Well, and you fight,
and then you have color. We're red, you guys are green. Yeah, right. Let's see who wins. Right. Here, it's like
fight until the enemy is completely destroyed,
and that was it. And there's no one left. Now I'm the victorious. Now you have like urban warfare, right? Yeah. So it's tough because. And that's what the terrorists do on purpose, right? We're going to dress like civilians. We might even, you know, we see it in all the movies now and all the CSI things. You know, there's a show that we were watching called The Rookie, which is about police officers. And they have a couple episodes where someone's just strapped with the bomb. And it's like, it's not me, but there's just someone is forcing me to do this. So now I think warfare is so different and so hard because before it was about land. Now it's about, okay, what other resources can I get from you too? You have oil. You have, you know, some other resources I can get. So I don't know even what your question was in the beginning.
In terms of just but do you think a situation could arise where the rest of the world's like, hey, Israel, you're going too far?
I don't know.
And then says, hey, you need to stop, or we're going to intervene as well.
I think it's the UN. The UN, to me, the UN's already been like, yo, chill. What makes it complicated now is because you have U.S. because of
is
this
an ally of Israel.
Well, because of this, the spiritual component, right?
Yeah.
And you think of Zionism, and you think there's a lot of Protestants that believe that Israel has to be Israel, Jewish Israel, in order for the whole world to be great.
Yeah.
Because there's something that's going to happen. So we got to get rid of.
Bro, I spoke to somebody not too long ago that believes that when Christ returns, he's going to be on the ground in Israel and so reestablish Israel.
Right. So I think U.S. is going to stick with Israel, but then you have Iran, right? Maybe supporting Hamas and that stuff. So you have other countries, because Israel's surrounded by countries that they've been maybe working together, whether with Egypt and treaties and stuff. But I think it's hard because now you have these big players with nuclear powers that are behind this. And I don't know if I see the U.S. being like, hey guys, there's peace and love. How can we fix this? Because now it's like,
when you have big players too, it makes you more aggressive. Now, for example, would Israel be as aggressive as they're being if they didn't have the U.S. as an ally?
If it was just them,
because they're in the middle of a region where they could be in a lot of trouble.
That's like when you're a kid and somebody does something to you.
You got an older brother.
You're like, yo, I got my older brother. I got an older cousin. So I feel bold.
I can flex a little bit.
To do something to you because if you try and come back, I got somebody that's watching my back. I feel like it's the same thing. But to answer your question, I feel like, and again,
we're not foreign affair.
Not even 1%.
Not even 1%.
Just three dudes
I can't even say that I am fully informed on the subject.
Yeah.
So
I'm going off of what you guys are telling me. No, I'm just kidding.
Feel free to take what I say, ball it up, and throw it in the trash.
And say you're absolutely wrong. And that's fine.
I'm okay with that. But to me, and I like history. This reminds me a lot of some of the things that happened right before World War I started, where you had an assassination. And because you had all these alliances and treaties, it was like, oh, well, if they're going to attack you, well, I got to attack them. And
I'm with
then this
their
person's
team.
like, well, if you're attacking them, well, then I got to. And before you know it, you got like 18 different countries that are now embroiled in this war because I've kind of sworn some allegiance to you.
It can happen that quickly.
Just like that.
Some big brother comes and attacks Israel and wrecks Israel. Then the U.S. is like, well, shoot, that's all right. Like, we got to attack. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, Russia's like, well, listen, if you're going to attack them, we got to attack.
Right.
And literally, you could have a World War III.
And then just like that.
Very easily off this.
If I were ever, and I would be terrible to be in that position because it's such a hard place, especially for my personality, not wanting to be in conflicts. But if I was the U.S., right, and again, we're not foreign affair people, but you would, or any country, right, that wanted the goodwill of civilians, right? Or if I'm the UN, I'm like, hey, can we have representatives from Israel and Palestine? Maybe can we work on something? I know they've been trying to do stuff over the last 100 years. They've had treaties,
multiple treaties,
but obviously, and I get the Palestinian plight because they were there for most recently, and then Israel was sent there, and the British came, and
they were running.
It's always always these other countries like, hey, we're gonna mess this up, and
then Britain was like, no, we're out,
and then they left.
Wow, yeah, we're not doing.
And
this.
then it's like, and so they're like, hey, Israel and Palestine, hey, we have this treaty. Can you recognize us? And they're like, yeah, whatever. And so there's wars, and then you have each. And so it's been crazy because I think what the Palestinians feel is that Israel hasn't kept their side of the treaty.
Because they were supposed to.
So that's why I think if you ask Palestinians, they're not Team Hamas, but they're like, hey, you can only oppress the people for so long until something starts happening, right? But you have uprisings even during slavery time when you're like, hey. But and we looked at that differently, right? And where in other types of history. So I think it's going to what you say, who you ally yourself with, because it's has such spiritual, theological things. I think it's different how we're talking about Russia and Ukraine because of this is Israel, like you said, right? This is the place right there. You have the Dome of the Rock. It's Jerusalem. You have the birthplace of of Christianity.
Everything,
it's just these three main religions.
The biggest religions are laying claim to the same geographical location,
right? So this is such a big place. So I think if it were up to me, and I think the Pope has said that he would try to have everyone sit down and say, is there a different way that we can do this, right? Get the hostages back, make Hamas play in some way, pay for what they did. It's just hard to see how that would happen. I just don't see it happening the way it is now. And a lot of it, I think, to me, goes back to a dehumanization, right? One of the defense guy from Israel was, they see the Palestinians as like animals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he said that openly, say, hey, we're gonna bomb this until they're gone. And so it's like, at some point, you're like, obviously, I think you still want to have a conversation and say, hey, we got to mend this, Matthew 18, hey, let's bring the two people to the table. If they can't get it, let's get a meet. But it's like,
outside of divine intervention,
exactly,
this kind of stuff is not mendable. This is not, hey, whatever. This is generations,
and things have been done. Back,
taught ingrained hatred.
Yeah,
like
from multiple,
and then it's justified mentally because you have experiences.
Yep. Yeah,
my family got bombed. Well, our kibbutz, our family got raided by the Hamas people. Well, we were taken, we weren't able to go worship at the mosque because the security people were beating us up. Oh, well, they were, it's just like nonstop. And you're thinking, man.
It takes, for something to change, you have to have a majority of people that have a completely different mindset. So, you have to get out of the mindset of payback and revenge, and you have to be in a mindset of peace. And it's very hard to do. Like, I'm not saying that that's easy. Like, it wouldn't be easy for me. I'd be in the same boat. Like, you just bombed my family and my father and my father's father and my father's father. Yeah, we better bomb you too.
Another thing I thought of too, and without getting too deep in the weeds, that I just thought about too, though, is a lot of times when you do have a war and you do end up having peace, it's a matter of I attack you, you attack me, I attack you, you attack me. Finally, I'm like, all right, enough, and you're like, all right, enough. This is at this point, it's a one-sided affair, right? Pretty much, right? So that's why I think this might take longer to resolve, because usually both sides tend to agree when our losses are so high and your losses are so high.
Surrender. Now we have to kind of like
make a treaty. Yeah. Really, at this point, it's a one-directional fight at this point.
Right? Because the support, obviously, it's U.S. crazy superior.
So that's why I think this might take longer.
And then Israel is they're just really well set up, and they haven't allowed for even Gaza or the West Bank to be able to get forces to be able to combat. So it's just. So I think you have
that's
a point
part
there.
of it. Why I think it might take longer for it to be like, all right, because if Israel's going to eventually have to just say, okay, fine, we're not going to do this anymore. Yeah. It isn't like because they're taking more losses. It's because, hey,
And so I think we're trying to ask the question: how can these two countries live as neighbors? But even before that is, do you even want this country as your neighbor? Yeah. And I think if you ask, just the rhetoric recently from Israel, they don't want Palestine there. And then the Palestinians are like, hey, dude, we've been under this oppression for 70 years. We've been trying to do our part. So it's just like, you have to go back to, and so that's where I was thinking, man, it's kind of this always the idea, right? Even in the States, you can't legalize, people to love each other. You can have laws to say, hey, you're not supposed to do this, and that, and there's going to be a punishment if you do. But for it to come out of your own will to have that, what you're saying, right? To have peace, to have love. That's not something that we can, even a treaty can do, right?
No, which is why it keeps coming back.
And that's what's hard. So it's like, I think it's until Jesus comes back and we're, that then we can finally do away with this way of living, because it's just a cycle of vengeance, nonstop, generational that keeps going and going. And you can have treaties for a couple of years, but then someone breaks it because there's and it just keeps going and going. So it's just, my heart breaks. This whole week I've been kind of like, man, this, to me, it's just been heavy, because I can see both sides. And I don't want to say I'm one pro, one more than the other, but I can see how, whatever it is, right? It's just the history, right? You're like, oh, we have claim to this land from our forefather Abraham. Okay, well, we've been here most recently. You kicked us. You're literally to this day in West Bank kicking us out because you're settling more Israel homes in Palestinian territory. So I can see it. I'm like, man.
So what's the takeaway, right? Like, what's it? No, but I'm saying
true,
like for us here, and just kind of how we deal with people, because I mean, we've all had issues with people in the past where, you feel so strongly that you're right, what I mean, and that you're in the right, and it can create problems. I mean, we're so kind of removed. We're very fortunate, to be in this country. We're far removed from something like that, so we can talk about it, from the comfort of this room, and not, but I've been trying to think, like, as we've been discussing, like, what can I take away from myself, just how I deal with people, and because it's easy to, when you feel wronged, when you feel so strongly about something, to really just feel like I'm going to impose my will and go above and beyond, in retaliation, to
make sure that you never have a chance.
And I think it's difficult to apply a lot of the principles that we know in this particular situation, because it's so I mean, there's just, I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm just talking out loud and thinking out loud.
I think one thing for me is seeking, I was having a conversation this last week with someone kind of about these different conversations and hot topics in culture. And I was like, one thing I've tried to do more recently is just be curious and figure out why we're at. Or, you know, if Cheryl does something to me, right, instead of just like, I'm gonna punch you back and then I'm gonna punch you 2 times because you punched me once. So let me see what happened, right? It doesn't justify what he did to me, but I can maybe understand. I see. And then he's like, dude, you know, that one time you said this, I didn't like that. I was like, I get it, dude. I'm sorry. And it's like, hey, you know, it doesn't take away. Hey, you should apologize too because you hit me and that hurt. But it's like maybe now I can understand. You don't like how I, you know, and so I think that obviously that takes humility, that takes time and you know, self-restraint to be able to do that. But for me, it's one thing is just kind of taking a step back before I even react and saying, okay, maybe put myself in other shoe. Maybe there is no shoot. You know, if someone comes in and does something to my family that's uncalled for, unjust, you know, I'm like, okay, there's, you know, it's kind of hard. But I think in a daily, day-to-day type of thing that I've seen is just, okay, how can I take a step back and try to just understand a little bit more of the other person's context that I feel has wronged me.
Right. And give time, right? And think and give time before you respond or before you react. Yeah. Most of the time, if you react in the moment for anything, most of the time it's going to be something it's going to be wrong. It's going to be, you know, negative. So that's a good takeaway.
Slow to speak.
Empathy, really.
Yeah. And then it's just James' words, right? Quick to slow to speak, slow to anger, and quick to listen, right? So be like, how do I? Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it just takes a shift in mindset, and it's not an easy shift. It's something that you just have to pray on, because the natural reaction anytime somebody does something to you is to get them back. Like that's just, you know, one of the things for me is driving. Like that's one of my biggest struggles. Like somebody cuts me off, I'm like, I gotta get back in front of you. Like it for me, it's like a principle. Like I now I gotta get back.
I have to do this now.
But I don't. Like if I take myself, like I don't have to get back in front of you. I can just go about my business, get to my destination, and move on with my day. I don't have to. But there's just that thing within you that's is like, nah, I gotta get my get back. Yeah. So you just have to really pray on it and be intentional about working on that and changing your mindset where somebody wrongs you and you're just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna let it lay and end right here. Like I'm not gonna.
You can make the decision to not escalate it.
Right.
We live in a fallen world, man. I think this, you know, that's kind of one of those things. These are kind of reminders of how the fallen nature of humanity and where we're at. You know, and the thing is, the only solace we have is that at some point this is gonna end, right? And God's gonna make things right. It's like we talked about earlier. It's hard to kind of think like how can God let this happen? You know, in that book the Theodicy of Love, I think was really good. And one of the takeaways I took for me is like, you know, God operates under rules of engagement as well. Like he can't just say, I'm going to decide to take away this particular individual's free choice because of this. You know what I mean? Like, you know, everyone has choices to make, and to take away free will takes away the opportunity to love and to not love. So it's deeper than that. But I as a Christian, I always trust, you know, and I build my faith around knowing that I'm not going to understand everything. I'm not going to understand why God allows like stuff like this to happen. I'm just not going to. And really, that's not what God's called me to do. It's not my job to be like, I have to understand everything, God, or I'm not going to believe. I'm okay with not understanding. You know, and I think you have to be. In a situation, in a world like this where innocent people die and things happen to people, you have to be comfortable.
It doesn't make sense.
With the fact of saying, hey, you know what? I don't know why that happened. I can't explain it. And I still believe that God, even though he could have stopped it in his power, there's something and there's a reason why he didn't stop it, and I trust in him, and I'm not going to question God in that way. And if you do, you have to come back to the realization that, listen, if you trust and believe in God and that his will is for good, that if it's not right now, he will make it right one day. Right. And I think that's how you have to live, because otherwise you can drive yourself crazy where you're like, how could God let this happen? You know what I mean? Well, listen, Omar, it's not for you. It's not for you to know, man. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not God. I got, you know, so it's one of those things. I think it's okay to question, but I think you can never question to the point where you start falling out of faith. You know?
I just hear kind of like the Old Testament prophets saying like, how long, O Lord, right? When they were seeing injustice, and it's like, God, I mean, we have no answer for this, right? You know, whether it's my people lie in ruins, right? Because now we're in Babylon, and, you know, some of the prophets there, or, you know, I'm surrounded. David's like, I'm surrounded by my enemies, right? Or you just look around and see injustice, and you're like, how long, God? Like, this is just. So I think that's a point. I think at the same time, it's a caveat, right? We aren't in Gaza or Israel. I think if we were there, you know, trying to record, we would feel different.
You would feel different.
My answer of like, I have to understand the situation. I'd be like, no, man,
I'm
trying to get out
as an innocent, as a college student in the Gaza area.
If I was a pastor, that's what if I was a pastor in Gaza right now, right, and you know,
and you're literally like,
and I'm literally, you know, I'm thinking differently. Obviously, I would hope that we have to find a way to stop what's happening, right, and find a way of peace or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you're thinking differently. So yeah, again, it's a caveat. We're not in that situation, and we're just giving 3 random dudes from Palm Coast, right? But yeah, whatever. We can take some input into this. But if anything, like you're saying, right, it's the hope of one day.
Mm-hmm. In my mind, in my own like weird imagination, man, I see God like standing up, like putting on his robe already. Like in my mind, like I see him like, all right, like I'm coming. Like, and then for him, it might be like I'm coming right now. Well, for us, it could be it's like 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
But I feel like in my soul that he's getting ready to come. Like it's getting to the point now in this world where it's like enough is enough, man.
And what's crazy is it just
I feel like
it feels like ready. It's becoming so normal for us, right? Yeah. And what's hard for us is that, you know, you're here on TikTok or Twitter, you swipe up and it's another story, right? So you're like, all right, Israel, all right, I'll find out more maybe tomorrow, right? So for us, it's not really reality because you can just, all right, saw enough about Gaza today. Let me go, oh, you know, Brussels, there's a shooting in Brussels, all right? Oh, look what's happening in MLB. Oh, look at Houston. Look at, you know, so it's easy for us because nothing's really affecting us here in that sense and that gravity to just, you know, and so, man, it's a lot. Yeah. Well, great talks. I don't know if we had... Again, I think this is one of those podcasts that we don't have a resolution because there is no. It seems like there isn't.
I think it's nice to just talk about it, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners they have their own opinions. They could be similar to ours. They might be very different than ours. Yeah. You know, and feel free to post in the comments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, and if you didn't agree, just go to
Omar.
Ask Omar. 1-800 don't call.
No, like listen. No, and that's the beautiful thing is everyone has opinions, right? We have opinions, and again, the views on the show do not represent. This is just, you know, us.
Three guys talking.
There's no. If the solution was easy,
it would
have been
solved.
You know what I mean? It's not. So, but yeah,
that's very good. All right, we'll move into our talking point here. What do you imagine the church will be like 100 years from now? Non-existent here.
In where? Non-existent where? In the world?
Hopefully we'll be in heaven.
Now the church meaning the church at large, or like our church.
Whatever.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, this is part of personal belief. So what do you imagine the church will be like 100 years from now? So let's just say the church was here. Well, however you want to answer.
I'll let you go first, Cheryl.
Man.
Unless you don't want to.
No, I'll go first. In 100 years, I think the church will be different. I think it'll be different in the sense that it needs to change with the culture, right? It needs to change with the environment that it's in. Not change its principles, not change its values, but change its methods. And I think that if the church is going to survive to make it to 100 years from now, it's going to have to change some of its methods, some of its some of the ways that it uses to reach others. I don't think that some of the things that were working 100 years ago would work now, and I don't think some of the things that are working now will work 100 years from now.
Okay.
So I think in that sense it will change. I think it's going to adapt to the times that it's in, to be and stay relevant, to make sure that people are getting something from it, and it's not just a punch something like a punch card, but like they're making a difference in the community. They're making an impact with people that have been in the church for a while. Like it's making changes in people's lives. So I think it'll change. I think it'll be different.
Yeah. Would you?
I think, and what I'm gonna say, I don't want it to be taken the wrong way.
It will be.
No, I think 100 years from now, the church will be less denominational than it is right now. Okay. I think you're gonna start to see.
What do you mean by it? Yeah. What do you mean?
I think there'll be less. I think non-denominational groups will outnumber the denominational groups. I think non-denominational church groups will be larger and more populated than individual Adventist churches, Lutheran churches, Baptist churches.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think in 100 years, you're going to have a lot more people that are Bible focused and almost consider themselves to be non-denominational and more Bible denominational. And in doing so, I mean, I do believe, in the things that we believe in. I do believe that when you follow the Bible, that the Sabbath is clear. I'm not saying
we believe in.
The stuff we believe in, but I think you will, because I think you're going to see a growth in non-denominational Christians that aren't wanting to say that I am this or I am that, but that I am a Christian.
Yeah.
And there's no other label to it.
Yeah.
I think 100 years from now, you'll see people that are like, no, I'm a Christian. What denomination? I don't have one. I'm just a Christian, and I follow what's in this book.
Right.
And I think that's the direction we're heading. And when you do follow what's in the book, then you will follow the things that we believe in. I believe, because I believe that our church faith tradition is a Bible faith tradition, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think there'll be less labeling and more
less institutional type of thing,
and more of like a mass
organic
of people that follow what the Bible says, that love each other, that love God, and are waiting for His soon return. But I have a feeling you'll see almost like the walls of division between the different faiths. I think those will start to fall apart, because I think if you look at some of the other churches, they're dying off. Even our church, if you look at the numbers in Adventism, the numbers are dwindling, right? And I think in the future, 100 years from now, we'll all be gone. But I think you'll start to see more of a Bible. I hope this is what I'm hoping you see. A Bible focused faith that is not looking for walls of separation between us, but more unifying because we're on the same trajectory and on the same path towards the soon coming of Christ, and just loving people and accepting people. You know what I mean?
It sounds like as you talk about it, sounds like how our church started, right? In the sense of it was just a group of people that left their churches and said, hey, what does the Bible teach?
Right.
And then
eventually
it becomes, a whole structure and institution. That's what hard. E and I were talking about that earlier, which is hard. You think about early church too, and it was just, all right, meeting at people's homes and stuff.
You look at the book in Acts,
and then they've settled up. Then they got Saint, you got Augustine and different church fathers that then become theology, and this is what we believe, and which is important and has its place. But
because in Acts they were the way.
Yeah,
they were just, first of all, they were just people.
They were just people.
Then they were the way, and then eventually they were Christians, right? But I think it'll be like a way, like a movement of people that are Bible focused, and Bible only focused people.
I'd be interested to see that, because I feel like it just takes time for me to go to we're just a movement to now we're settled, right? Because at some point your mind, I don't know, just everything just always ends up going into organization. It's like, all right,
and people are
now
more
that we've grown, what do we believe?
Let's become let's get a conference.
What's our name? Let's
get a conference.
And we got to make sure we're, so it's it's always hard, and I think that's where the Holy Spirit comes in to say, hey, I'm the one that's in charge to make sure everything's good. But humanly speaking, we always want to be like, oh, this is a cool movement. And then think about Elevation, church. They started small. Obviously they have a great user experience. You go in there, it's awesome, but they've become a global brand now. It's a brand, right? It's still a church, it's still changing lives and whatnot. The music is powerful, but it's going from being a little small thing when they had some of the first songs come out. I think it's just the hard thing about
the trending of society, though, that I'm noticing is that people are less and less interested in organized.
I see what you're saying,
things, and they're more interested in no, I don't want a lot of that extra stuff. What does the Bible say? That's okay. I'm good with that. That's the Bible. Yeah. I'm not interested in all that other stuff that you guys are talking about. That's fine, cool. But if it's here, then I can believe with this. I can get with this. And I think that's the direction. So
more church plants.
Listen, but you know what I mean? More. I think that's the trend, man. People are less interested in labels.
Yeah.
Versus just I'll believe what this book says.
Yeah. I hear.
You know what I mean? We'll see.
100 years from me, I'm hoping we're in heaven by. So I'm not even thinking about that, man. We're gonna be in church service with Jesus, and He's gonna be
down with that.
Let's do that. That's my church. In 100 years, we'll be already be 99 years in heaven.
The thing about it is, the thing is, in 100 years, we'll all be dead in the blink of an eye. I mean, 100. That's the thing people don't realize. That 100 years from now, you will be in heaven.
Yeah.
When we pass, and
unless we don't die,
we wait for Christ to return.
You're in heaven either way.
Yeah, that time period when you go to sleep and you wake up. I mean, so in 100 years, and it's a beautiful thought to know in 100 years we'll be living eternally. You know what I'm saying?
It might be 50 for us, bro. We might not even make it 100. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So within 100 years for us,
regardless of it, we'll be in heaven, whether because we're dead or because
the return of Christ, bro.
Man,
let's go, man. It's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. Like I'm in my 40s. Let's say I even make it to 100. Within 60 years, man, I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up. And boom, the coming of the Lord.
I've never thought that. That's like date setting, bro.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's like date setting.
But you know what I'm saying?
No.
Within 60 years, I'll have passed.
I never thought about
and I'll
that.
Wake up.
Yeah, I'm 31. I'll be
within 70 years, bro.
In 70 years, I'm guaranteed to be
guaranteed to fall asleep in Christ.
When he comes and wakes you up, Sebastian,
that changes the way you look at things.
That's it.
And I think that's one, that's a whole other topic too. But
we're not, and I understand, we're not saying that we'll die and go to heaven.
No.
What I'm saying is you die and you rest in Christ, and when He comes
and for
and
you, it's like sleeping at night. So the next thing you see, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Again, and for the families that we've lost,
your eyes close and then they open right back up.
They're still waiting for whatever length that is.
1,000 years, 2,000 years. But the next phase that they'll see, the
next thing they're done is,
if you've lost someone, the next phase they'll see is Jesus, man. When He wakes him up. So it's a beautiful thought when you think about it that way. That we don't really have much time left before we see the Lord in person. It's nice.
And that's where Paul's words come in. Is like, dude, when you look at what we have prepared for us, like whatever we face in this life is like little compared to what we're getting, right? So it's like, I can do that. Hey, I know in 70 years I'm gonna be dead, right?
Right.
And the next thing I do, if I'm been with God, if I have God in my life, I'm gonna be in heaven. All right, I can take 70 years and comparison to eternity. Yeah, so that's good. So I'm hoping we're in heaven though.
Yeah, I like that.
That'd be nice.
For sure.
I like that way of looking at it.
I like that way.
I like that.
Well, hope you guys like it too. If you didn't like anything from our podcast, you can write Elton, our producer, email, and he'll forward that to us. But no, actually, just share it. Comment
share your
wherever you are.
On the
DM us, Instagram. Obviously, like we said, we're not geopolitical experts,
not a pundit.
We haven't gone to school for peace talks or for ministry of foreign affairs or whatever.
There's no government that's calling me up asking me for advice.
Yeah, but it's just from three humble guys in Palm Coast, seeing it from the other side of the world, kind of trying to figure out and make peace with that. But hopefully you guys were blessed in some way. Comment below, share this wherever you're listening, YouTube or wherever, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Let everyone else know about this, and hopefully we don't get canceled on Instagram. But I'm just kidding. No, it'll be good.
But again, put a disclaimer out there.
Yeah, we'll put a disclaimer. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll be back next time with a different episode and exciting stuff. So see y'all.
Peace.
Have a good one.